Let's move over to our second base position preview next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Wednesday, February 9th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. Let's talk a little second base. Scotty, what do you think about this position overall, and what kind of strategy have you been using here in 2022?
It's a lot better, this position, than it's been in recent years. It's no longer the weakest infield position. In fact, it may be actually the second strongest, but that's partly because it shares so many players with the strongest infield position, shortstop. So many dual-eligible guys, from Trea Turner to Marcus Semien. Javier Baez is dual-eligible, Jorge Polanco, Jazz Chisholm, Chris Taylor, Brendan Rodgers. And then you got some outfield-eligible guys like Ketel Marte at the position as well. So, you could fake yourself out into thinking it just goes on forever. It does run out, but as long as you're conscious about drafting a second baseman, you take one by round 8, maybe even 9 or 10, you'll probably be fine.
By ADP, 16 of the first 20 second basemen being drafted have multi-position eligibility. So I think it's a really good point that you bring up there, Scott. Let's take a look at the top 5 in ADP at second base. In round 1, Trea Turner at ADP 2. In round 2, Ozzie Albies goes off the board at pick 21. Round 3, we see Marcus Semien at 28.7 and Whit Merrifield at 33.3. And then a 30 pick drop down in round 6, we see Jose Altuve going at pick 66.7. Scott, Trea Turner has both second and shortstop eligibility. Starting to hit for more power in his older age. He's not really old, but I'll just say that anyway. Still lots of speed, a lot of batting average. What do you think about drafting Trea Turner inside of the top 2 or 3 picks this upcoming season?
So I have him 4th. I'm a little behind the consensus, I guess. Early on, we were seeing him go first in a lot of leagues, which I think, passing up Fernando Tatis at that first spot is just a mistake, I think, even with the concerns about his shoulder. But Trea Turner, of course, is a legit first rounder. He's one of the best steal sources in baseball, and it's nice to get a good chunk of that early in drafts, particularly if it's a 5x5 league. I think he's very safe for batting average as well. One of the best sources of that you could draft early. The power's not going to measure up to some of the first rounders, but you are getting a guy who's eligible at second base, and it's really been since Jose Altuve was at his very best, that his heyday, that we've seen a second best player go in round 1. And obviously Turner's eligible at shortstop as well, so you could go either or there. I think, as long as you're willing to go big on the power production in the rounds that follow, I think he's fine in the first round.
Yeah, and I think he kind of gets this... gets knocked for not being a points league player. He's fine. He's actually, in fact, very good in points leagues. He makes a lot of contact as well. So I like him, regardless of format, being a first round pick. Scott, sleepers, breakouts, and busts like we do for every other position. Who are you looking at as a sleeper here at second base?
Well, I'm going really deep with my sleeper. It's just the way the position stacks up for me. Nolan Gorman, Cardinals prospect, who appeared to master AAA late in the year. He's only 21. He's moved very fast through the system. He has prodigious power. It doesn't really show up in the numbers because the Cardinals have been very aggressive about promoting him. Basically, anytime he heats up at a level, they moved him to the next one. But that has him on the verge of reaching the majors already. I think it happens sooner than later. I think if you're in a league where it's normal to draft and stash prospects for a midseason debut, Gorman should be among the top 5 prospects you stash.
Nolan Gorman, the ADP 394.7 over on Fantasy Pros, so you can get him as your last round pick in a 12-team league. Scott, breakout here at second base. Who you got?
Brendan Rodgers of the Rockies, who was a former stud prospect, 3rd overall pick. It took him a long time to reach the majors, and when he was finally getting to that point where he could break in, he kept getting hurt. But when he was healthy last year, back in the lineup, secured every day at bats, performed pretty well, hit 284, 15 home runs and 387 at bats. That's pretty good power production, but I think it could be even better because he's the rare Rockies hitter who actually performed better on the road. Usually Rockies hitters stink on the road, but his numbers were even better on the road than at home. I think he hit something like 12 or 13 of his 15 home runs on the road too. So like that's going to correct itself. Coors Field being such a great place to hit. He only struck out at a 20.2% rate. That's good. That means he's going to hit for average in that BABIP inflating environment too. I think you just project out his numbers. You're looking at a 280 hitting 25 homer guy, but I think he has the upside for much more, especially since he didn't really take full advantage of Coors Field last year.
It was indeed 12 of his 15 home runs on the road last season for Brendan Rodgers. Scotty, 20 seconds or less, hit me with your biggest bust at second base.
Well, look, Javier Baez, Marcus Semien, I could go with either of them. I'll save one for shortstop, and Chisholm is the one I'm most looking to avoid. He is a raw player, a lot of tools, not many skills. He caught the league by storm last April, put up big numbers, and then got eaten alive the rest of the way. And I don't think that's being accounted for in his ADP. People are seeing nothing but upside, but I see way more downside than upside for Jazz Chisholm.
All right, if you want to hear more about Jazz Chisholm and the rest of the second base position, you can listen to Fantasy Baseball Today, our full-length podcast over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again on Thursday morning. Bye-bye.